Welcome back to the Agent of Wealth. This is your host, Marc Bautis. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Scott Yamamura. Scott is a seasoned financial coach, communications expert, and author dedicated to empowering individuals to achieve financial freedom. With over 25 years of experience in communication and design, he blends an understanding of human behavior with practical strategies to help people overcome financial paralysis, break free from debt, and cultivate lasting wealth. He serves as an advisory board member of the Financial Fitness Club and is the author of Financial Epiphany, Discover Your Ability to Multiply Your Money and Reimagine Your Financial Life. Through his work, Scott simplifies complex financial concepts, making them accessible to anyone eager to take control of their financial future. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be on.
Yeah, so it's great to have you here. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Let's start with your book, Financial Epiphany. In it, you walk readers through how to experience a mental shift with their money. For listeners who have a decent income but still find themselves overspending, undersaving, or feeling overwhelmed by debt, this book is a must-read. What inspired you to write it?
Yeah, absolutely. Around 10 years ago, I started to get into studying personal finance myself. I think like most people, I had gone well into my career without a plan, without a financial plan. And it finally became time to say, okay, I think I better start learning about this. Things are starting to come to the forefront. I started to think about retirement. I started to think about my son going through college and if he was going to need some savings for that. My parents were getting older, and was I going to be able to financially assist them if they needed it? So there's this time in your life where if you put off thinking about finances, you'll eventually fall right into it. And so it was happening to me where I needed to actually start studying it. And so I started reading books and taking workshops and really diving deep in and finding out that money, although it's intimidating for most, or we might think that it's dry and uninteresting, well, that totally flipped for me and started opening up the door to becoming empowered and actually passionate about this thing that I had held at arm's length for so long. And once I got over that hump, and I believe that anybody can get over that hump if they start putting in some of the time, I started writing in the margins of books. I started writing in the blank pages of books. I started writing so much in the books, I figured I better put this together into my own book. I had a wake-up call and a personal way of looking at finances that was really working for me. And like you had said, I've worked in the communications industry for 25 years now. And so my job has always been, how do I speak to thousands and thousands of people worldwide and take a message and boil it down to, if this is the 30 seconds, the 1 minute, the 3 minutes that people are going to hear, can it impact them? Can it cause change in behavior? Can it change their life? And so when I discovered that finances weren't so bad for myself and discovered and had my own financial epiphany, I wanted to share that with others. And so the last 3 years I've been writing the book, Financial Epiphany. It just came out a little over a month ago, and I've been spreading the news ever since. So thanks for having me on here to explain it.
Yeah. How long did that process take from when you said, you said, okay, I need to start figuring this stuff out,
Yeah,
to the point where you were confident enough to start making decisions based off of what you had learned since you started?
Right. So the 9-week course that I took, Financial Peace University, really gave me the foundation. And they say out there that when you're married, expect that one of you is a spender and one of you is a saver. And so in my case, we're lucky enough to both be on the saving end of the spectrum. I would even say that my wife's even more, she's stronger at it than I am, even though I always thought I was pretty good. She's more extreme than I am. And so so it didn't take that long to take the resources we already had and start doing something intentional with it. And that's what it's all about, is feeling confident and feeling motivated to do things. Otherwise, we act timidly. And I would say that's exactly how I started out and how most people start out, that if you're unfamiliar with how money works, you just dip your toes in and you're not going to go all in. And one of the things I want to do today is help show people that You can go all in, and you should go all in using common everyday opportunities available to all of us. And that the earlier you start, this is very familiar, save early, that advice, the earlier start, the more good it's going to do. And that's what my book has quantified, is it tells people and empowers people with, here's your multiplying power and here's your age. Now you got something tangible to hold on to, not just good advice, not just save early, not just save 15% of your income, but a lot more about what's happening there, to the point where people are taking action, confident action with their finances.
Yeah, you mentioned it in the book. You introduced this idea of a money multiplying superpower. What does that mean for someone who hasn't read the book or haven't heard that term before?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I first like to lay down the groundwork and say that money, most people will deal with analysis paralysis. There's so many ideas out there. There's so many paths to take or things to invest in. We'd rather stay still rather than, like I said, jump all in. And so we need to start there and say, hey, let's make money freeze, behave, sit down, and stay put for a little bit. And what I mean by that is, if we just, instead of trying to understand all of finance, if we just try to understand the most common type of finance, then it starts to make sense. And so I lay down what's called the simple framework first. And when we're thinking about multiplying money, there's 3 principles of the simple framework. The first is the average person starts their career around age 22. Might be out of 4 years of college doing that. The average length of a career, about 40 years, from 22 to 62. 62 is a very common retirement age. And then the third principle is looking at what's the average rate of return over a 40-year career, 40 years of savings. Well, a good one that I like to stick by, because it leads to the simplest math ever, is 7.2. A 7.2 rate of return on your retirement account, on a brokerage account, on stocks and bonds over the long run. And when we know these 3 things, we can figure out money. We can start solving it because it's sitting still, it's frozen in place. We can now do simple calculations and get the answers we're looking for. And so that's the simple framework. Now, moving on to the money multiplying superpower, there's 3 financial epiphanies that I teach about on top of this simple framework. The first one is that, okay, if we looked at starting a career at 22, work for 40 years, earning a 7.2% rate of return on our investments, well, money actually is doubling every 10 years. So if we put in $1,000 and do nothing else, in 10 years, it's going to be $2,000. And in 10 years later, it's going to be $4,000. And in 10 years later, it's going to be $8,000. And finally, when we retire, 40 years later, $16,000. Now we're starting to really be able to do simple math to say, wow, with this simple framework, within this protected learning environment, if I put $1,000 in, $16,000 when I retire, now I understand the input. Now I understand the output. Here's the trouble, though, is that there's a graph called the exponential growth chart. Most of us are familiar with it. It's very shallow in the beginning, and as time goes on, the curve gets steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper, representing our money is multiplying. More near the end, right? The longer the race we run, the longer we invest by, the money's growing fastest at the end. But it looks like nothing's happening in the beginning. The average person hates that. We're impatient. We want immediate gratification. We want results tomorrow. That's not how money works. You can't plant a seed and hope for a tree the next day. You're gonna have to wait. And money is the same way. But that is so hard for us when we are now-minded people to become later-minded, which is that exponential growth chart. So what I do in the book is I flip that chart. And when you flip that chart, the biggest, most exciting, tallest part of that curve is now. And what does that mean when now is when the most is happening? It means you have this multiplying power. You have the power of 16 when you start your career at age 22. Money you put in multiplies by 16 times. And when we think of our multiplying power as an ability we have now, rather than money, this object that's going to accumulate later, 40 years from now, it turns everything around. It tells us we've got this window of opportunity, we've got this multiplying power, and we've quantified it. 16. We have the multiplying power of 16 when we start our careers. And what's going to happen in the next 10 years? Well, it's going to halve to the multiplying power of 8 in our early 30s. And in the next 10 years, it's going to halve to the multiplying power of 4 in our early 40s. And then the multiplying power of 2 in our 50s. And finally, when we retire in our early 60s, statistically, that's when we're spending the fruits of our labor down and enjoying life. And our money's not necessarily doubling, like I was just saying, because we're not leaving it alone anymore. We're putting our hand to that retirement savings cookie jar now. So yeah. That's my explanation. Those are the rules of thumb that I teach, that one, money can multiply every 10 years. Very simple math. Doubling, 10 years. We can all do that. And then the second teaching, rule of thumb, which I call a financial epiphany, is that we start with the power of 16 when we start our careers. Now we have a number to apply. And then the third thing is that our multiplying power halves every 10 years. So that creates a sense of urgency when we say, oh, I can multiply by 16. Oh, and in 10 years, it's only 8. Oh my goodness, I'm going to lose half my multiplying power. I need to take action now. I now have a quantified way of looking at that age-old advice of save early. So that's the multiplying superpower that we have. I like to throw a number on it. I like to throw numbers on it, 16, 8, 4, 2. And so that causes people to act when they finally understand what's happening, can quantify it, and estimate results. I do this now. Oh, now I know what's going to happen when I retire.
What happens? So this seems great for that person who's coming out of college or in high school to really ramp up their financial literacy. What about the person who's maybe in their 30s or in their 40s and hasn't saved? And now you're telling them, okay, if you would have done this 10, 15 years ago, you would have had to save this. Now you got to save way more because your multiplying power is diminishing over time. But in addition, now they have other things going on. They have habits, emotional pieces that are hard to break. How can someone that is behind in their savings, let's say, how can they get back on track?
Yeah. And you said the ages, 42, 32 and 42. I even like to say 52 is an amazing time because we're even saying then that money can double if you're getting that 7.2% interest rate over the long term. Now, certainly you might get a little bit more conservative the closer you get to retirement age. But let's start even with 52. So with this simplified way of looking at things, if money does double every 10 years and someone has, let's say they're lucky enough to have 500,000 saved up, having $1 million later is no small thing. That is something to be absolutely excited about. And if you have 100,000 saved and there's going to be 200,000 10 years from now, absolutely incredible. I just got back from Sierra Leone, Africa, and there's places where money is not going to double. We live in a place of prosperity and opportunity. And Warren Buffett, the famed investor, says, if you were born in America, then you just won the ovarian lottery, because we are fortunate where we're on a train that is moving. And we may not be doing a thing ourselves, but that train is moving. That economy is expanding constantly. We have amazing businessmen and entrepreneurs that are always thinking of the next product or service that we need or don't need, but we're going to buy anyway. But the thing is that doubling money is an incredible thing. And even though when we're younger, at age 22, we have the power of 16, even doubling money at age 52 is incredible. Now, jumping down a decade at age 42, so I'm in that bracket, here's the deal, is we always need a goal to reach after. So even if I had 0 saved, now I have something to quantify after. Oh, I have the multiplying power of 4. Whoa, I better act on this. So that can give me the motivation to clean up my mess, pay off my debt, focus on putting more into my 401k, and really start taking advantage of this for what it is. And then the other amazing thing I really want to get people thinking about, whether they have kids or nieces or nephews or any younger generation that they care about, is we can start living vicariously through them. And parents love to do this. if their kids are an athlete or got amazing grades or just won an award, it's as if we did. And what I want to tell you, parents and others out there, is look at your multiplying power of your kids. And don't even look at your multiplying power of your kids and just that. Start teaching them and start helping them invest. So my son, when he was 7, that's when we started some accounts for him. We saved until age 9 and stopped for his 529 college savings plan. Now we know that money is going to double every 10 years. It certainly did. He has enough to go to college, and he's still only 16. So you see how myself, who used to be timid with money, now that I know what's happening, money can double every 10 years. So 10 years before he goes to college, how much do I need to save? Half, because it can double, and it certainly has. The other thing I'm looking at is because of his age, he has the power of 32. 32? That is, and I have the power of 4. So I need to be thinking, instead of giving him that gift that is going to open the box, look at the toy, it's going to gather dust, what if I put something into a custodial account for him, and that grew at that power of 32, so that by the time he retires at 62, that's the biggest gift he could have ever received from me, but I only put in 1/32 of the amount at this age. So understanding our money multiplying superpower allows us the confidence to take action early, and I love having seen it worked already in my 25-year career, and seeing it work for my family. That's why I'm spreading the word for others.
Taking your son's example, at what age do you think they can understand some of these concepts that you have in the book?
Right. So here's the deal, is I've been asked, who is your ideal audience for the book? And really, I do say middle-aged people, because at middle age, like I said before, money's coming after us, and we are almost forced to think about it if we haven't opted into it. Retirement, funding parents and their needs, kids' college. I mean, we're in the sandwich generation at that point. We are taking care of those younger than us. We're thinking about taking care of those older than us. We got to think about taking care of ourselves and our own future. And so I like the idea of teaching parents and then parents teaching their kids. Now, I have put this book in front of the younger ones, but guess how much kids want to read a book about finance? They would. It's not a YouTube video, or a TikTok video. So it's not so much the format or the learning method that kids are gonna grasp onto. And so what I've seen work is teach the parents, then parents teach the kids. But as far as just the concept is concerned, I've noticed that when parents teach their kids, and it's repeated, and it's told in this simplified way, the book teaches in such a simplified and creative, engaging way that kids do get it. So my son started to get this in the single digits, and now at age 16, he's doing things that I was intimidated by and didn't start learning until my 40s. So when he's looking at his own stocks and he's picking a stock, now I don't highly recommend single stocks, but I'm doing that to teach him. And he's also in index funds and mutual funds and things like that, which I do recommend. But he's learning that this didn't have to be an intimidating thing. He's learning that these are normal methods for saving for your future. If we're going to save for a up to 30-year retirement and work 40 years to do so, boy, every year of work, we're saving for about 9 months of retirement potentially. We need to get on this as early as possible. And when we teach our kids about this, they're less likely to get into college debt and to auto loans, heavy auto loans, credit card debt, and later in life to overspend on a wedding, which is $10,000 is the average wedding debt, and then to not get into being house poor by getting your first condo and spending too much on that to impress your friends. So when we teach early, then when this, what I call path of snares and traps is coming for us, the default things we're going to get into because we're the most marketed to society in the world, we're more able to see it coming and avoid those traps and those snares and those debts that are coming for us if we don't have a plan. So once again, I like to teach people about their multiplying power, because when we realize our ability, we're less likely to fall for those default holes in the road as we journey along our early life.
I equate saving to like if you look at someone taking on like a fitness regime where they want to improve their food or they want to improve their exercise more. A lot of people know what they should be doing.
Yeah.
It's the actual execution where people struggle with. What kind of tips or tricks or anything like that do you have that maybe can help people save more than the person that looks and says, yeah, I know I should save more, but I just can't. I have this money going here, or they probably don't even know where their money's going.
Yeah.
But they just look at it and just throw their hands up and say, can't do it, and then just go on with their lives.
Absolutely. And that is the average American, is that we've already got ourselves in a place where every dollar is accounted for, and sometimes plus more than that. We might have a zero net worth. And so what I like to tell people is I really want to dig into the concept of your ability to multiply money. It's an ability. It is like a athletic ability. And you think about sports professionals like an NFL football player, they're at their prime at about age 26. And Olympic ice skaters and gymnasts, they're going to reach their prime also around their early 20s. And money is just the same. A lot of us will tell ourselves with this myth, when I make more money, when I get promoted, I have time to think about money, and I'll figure it out later, and I'll save later. Once again, what we're teaching here is that it is totally flipped around. The way money really does work is it needs time. And when we have the power of 16, when we start our careers, that is the time to act, not when we have the power of 2. And so anybody you tell them as a coach, and I really want people to think about themselves as an athlete, because unlike real athletic ability or musical ability, everybody has the same multiplying power for the most part. There's going to be others like that are really savvy, or entrepreneurs that can do more than that. But I'm talking about the average, common, everyday person has an amazing ability they need to know about. And so when we teach them that they're an athlete, they're like an athlete that has this amazing ability, they really need to take advantage of it. And they'll be willing to make sacrifices if they realize you have the power of 8. You have the power of 16. I don't. I'm older. I have the power of 4. And so as humbling as that is for me, look at what you got right now. You got to take advantage of this. And when you realize that you have this incredible, potent power, you're willing to make sacrifices. And that's what I like to say, is that when there's a big enough why, you can overcome any how. And so when you realize you have this multiplying power, you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to go do this or that with my money, because I have this multiplying power that's going to do so much more good. I mean, it's like when you're an athlete and you're saying, and then coach is telling you, you have this ability like no other time to score and win and win championships and do this, and that ability is going to go away. Do it now. Yes, you may have to give up some partying. Yes, you may have to give up a little bit of time hanging out with your friends. You may get a little injured here or that, but you're willing to sacrifice and do all those things because the goal is so big. The why is so big. Multiplying money by 16 is so big when later in life it really, really does diminish. In fact, it's when you flip that chart I was talking about, that exponential growth chart I was talking about, it's called exponential decay. And just the sound of that, exponential decay, it's not a fun sound, but that is what's happening to our multiplying power. And so I want people to not squander their power while they have it. I want them to put it to use and with gusto, and put all your force and energy into this while you can. Make sacrifices. Your future self, which is still you, is going to thank you for it. And in fact, what are retirees' biggest regrets? Well, one of them is that they wish they would saved earlier. And so if your older self is telling your younger self, do this, trust me, save earlier, you have the power of 16, absolutely. Jump in, do it, make the sacrifices as hard as they may be.
Do you see yourself writing another book?
Thanks for asking that question. So 2 things. The book that I wrote, Financial Epiphany, is 11 chapters. I guess with the appendices, it's around 200 pages. And it would have been more. But I took out some material because it was too complicated. And I realized I don't need to say everything in this Financial Epiphany book. My goal is to reach the everyday person, the common day person, the person that's going to invest in their 401k, start an IRA, Roth IRA, start a brokerage account, is not doing anything wild or crazy. We're just going to use normal means to save. The book is meant for that person. And you can become wildly healthy and successful and at peace with your money just by doing what's widely available. And so after that, you certainly can get into more specific sorts of investments. I highly recommend meeting with an advisor to optimize yourself over time. Get started with the simple stuff and then optimize yourself along the way. And if there's a second book, which I have been thinking about, it would contain some of those chapters that were more complex and next steps that I took out. And as I'm getting feedback on this first book, which is so wonderful, love the feedback, I'm thinking about, that would be fantastic material for the people that graduate past getting started and going in with gusto. That's the first thing. But then, like myself, I wanted more later, and I want to be able to give readers and investors more later, because you probably won't stay simple forever. And we can take people to the next level. And when you optimize your finances, you can do all sorts of things to grow it even faster over time. So I'd like to help people with that. Yes.
Nice. Scott, this has been a great conversation. We're just about out of time. Where can listeners connect with you or find your book if they want to dive deeper into these concepts?
Yes. For more information, go to financialepiphany.com. Everything's there. You can get the book through there. You can look at the resources and download the guide, which has 4 simple foundational steps to take with your finances. Because the book is about a simple and creative way to understand your multiplying power, your ability. There's a lot of other foundational things we need to learn. So that's on the site. And then, reach out. Please contact me via the contact page. Love having conversations, seeing what investors are up to, early investors or those interested in investing are up to. If you got questions about multiplying your money, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people and spread the message and make a difference and a ripple effect through helping people realize that ability of theirs.
Great. We'll include all that in the resources section of the show notes. Thanks again, Scott, and thank you to everyone who joined us for today's episode.
Thanks, Mark.